My name is Meddy. I've been there, heard it, I've seen it already. The bullying, the hustling, and the struggle to be accepted. I've been to times when my life had ended, and I've been to times when I've wanted to end it. I've been to times when the streets were so cold, and I've been to times when even home was so hot. I've been to times when the tears were so mad that I couldn't hold, even though I was, yes, a man. I've been to times when I've been disowned by the people who I thought were really my own. Disowned by my own. I felt betrayed, rejected, neglected, completely deserted. I felt ashamed. I felt wasted. Many times I've looked at the visions I've painted, the goals and dreams that my heart has intended, the purpose for which my life was created, and I fainted. Because the world already started. Mama said when I came, she wasn't ready. Dad couldn't believe I was here already, and so I became like a ball tossed between the man and the lady. Now I grew up in a life that was never steady. I've walked the streets, and I've plowed the fields. I've lacked the fees, and yes, I have failed those tests. I've prayed and fasted, but situations persisted. Called on the Lord, but the devil insisted. Both of my parents also hail from really broken backgrounds. My father was born of a Muslim polygamous father, also my grandfather. So there was not so much of perfect parenting and all that. My mom doesn't really have any history about her dad. All she remembers is her mother, my grandmother, who was with her. By the time she came to understanding, she was staying with her mother, with her stepdad. Her mother later passed on, I think shortly after she got pregnant or before. I don't remember. I think it was before she... I'm trying to pick bits of stories in her, what she told me, And she says when I was born, or when she got pregnant, my dad disowned the pregnancy, and so she had to struggle. She had to leave. When her mom died, she stayed with the stepdad, but then the stepdad, after she was pregnant, she had to leave that place and go and, hustle as a woman on her own. The man had denied the pregnancy. So she went to the village and stayed with a friend, and that's where I was born, in a banana plantation. Around primary 4, my father took me and took me to my aunt in Masaka, and boy, oh boy, life was tough there. First and foremost, the distance from school, it was so long, so you had to walk. In the morning, you wake up, the day is like you wake up, you do chores, you do a little bit of farm work, and then you have to run to school. With my mom, all I had to do is wake up, prepare for school. There's always a snack packed for you, and some little money to go and buy something, maybe at break time here and there. Like, there was that. I mean, she was my mom. She had to find a way of making sure that I was okay. This side in Masaka, in the village, things were a little bit different. If the school has not made porridge, life goes on. There was no play. Half the time it was school. When you come back, it's work and then work. I tried to run away to come to town, to Kampala, and be with my mom. The last time it happened, I was so badly beaten by my auntie that I dared not to do it again. Yeah, so in my primary 7 vacation, I came back to town. I came back to stay with my dad. And that was a little bit of a breather. With your parents, you can always do whatever you want. This is my mom, this is my dad. But if somebody is not your mother, is not your father, unless such a person just, goes out of the way to care more like a mother or father, you're not entitled. You don't have really privileges. You are at their mercy, all right? And that was my case. I don't know how it feels like when you wake up in the morning and your mom and your dad are in the house, everything else would bring me back to that place where I just wanted to have my parents with me. The challenges that I've faced growing up as a child, they have shaped a lot, but they have also affected a lot. It doesn't occur obvious, like it doesn't appear obvious. You think this is how life should be. There's a time when my dad left me at home, and the neighbor the neighbor had a housemaid. That was I think before I started schooling. So the neighbor had a housemaid, and the housemaid attempted to have sex with me, and I didn't know what to do. I just looked at her, and she was trying and fidgeting, and I'm just looking there, and I just said no. I need to go away. I need to run away from here. So I I can't recall how I actually got away from there. She took me behind the house. It was in the fence, so everybody was away from home. Up to now, the images they still occur to me, and I'm like, what was she even trying to do? There's a time when I was staying with my auntie, and the housemaid, she gave me a lot of food. So I ate, and I was full. And I told her I was full, and she told me, you have to eat that food and finish it. And I was full. It was too much. I tried to let her know I was full, but she just couldn't listen. I had to continue eating. So at one point, I just started vomiting. And I think she realized she was trying to milk a rock. And that's how I managed to escape. She put everything away, and of course she had to beat me. I mean, why? How can I be vomiting? It had a very big toll on my self-esteem. I had trouble, opening up. I, I wouldn't tell anybody that I was struggling with this. If it were my mom, I would easily open up. But you see, I stopped living with my mom before 1999, when I was in primary four. The rest of my life, my mom has been coming in sports of visits here and there. My dad, not anywhere really, still a few visits here and there. So the rest of the people really, once you have food, a roof over your head, and the things you need to go to school, books and what, you're good. So you can't open up, you can't talk about things, you can't have an opinion. In my primary seven vacation, when I left Masaka to come and stay with my stepmom, it was so hard, you know. It was so hard with her. There's a time when she beat me so bad, I broke. I was washing the flask, and it fell down and broke. She beat me so bad with a mingling stick. So that's what got me to really say, no, enough is enough of all this. So at some point, I remember going to the shop to buy rat poison, just take it and die, you know. And I did. I went to the shop, I bought poison, I put it in a small cup with water and took it. So it was really it was nasty. The taste was very bad. I started to throw up. And I didn't want people to know. I didn't want anybody to know. So I ran, and after vomiting, I ran and slept. I hoped that I would not wake up. But yeah, like you see, I'm here. So I woke up. Depression is a numbness to everything around you. It's a place where hope is fuzzy and despair is so clear. A coldness that leaves you feeling so worthless.
It convinces you that you're the only person alive on the planet, and so you don't matter. It convinces you that you got nothing to lose, and so you don't care. Makes you fall in love with pain, sings whiskey lullabies and lights vigil candles for you while you date your own tears in the dead of the night. It makes pain smell like mildly burnt starch, sweet smelling mildly burnt starch, so you keep burning your own blood glucose to sustain the aroma until you got nothing left to burn, so you burn out. It's a death song. Depression is a dead song without words. The more you keep listening, the more you compose the lyrics, and it feels nice, sweet, and relieving, numbing, writing them down, but you never get to sing it. The word sings it for you and then attributes the title to you. After all, it's your suicide note. I've grown up not opening up. I've grown up not, expressing. So I had to suck all that in and everything. So, but I was depressed. I had a lot of fear around me, and because of the past, all this, all I wanted was maybe just disappear from the face of the earth, and that's where suicide comes in and all that. Thank God I survived. I wasn't able to go to senior one immediately in the first term because there was no money. So in the second term, my dad took me to school, Maryland High School in Entebbe. My dad loved me so much. He loves me so much. That one I know for sure. But he has so much on his plate. He has so much on his hand. There's so much work around him that we haven't been, not just me, all of us as his children, we haven't had the luxury of being with our father. So he left. When he took me to school, he left for South Africa. And he never came back till about 5 years later. But amidst all that, there was something so consuming. A force I couldn't fight that kept me going. You cannot touch it, but it will keep you holding. You cannot see, but it will keep you watching. It didn't give me a waterfall, but it kept me flowing. When I reached the end of the rope, it kept me hanging. When I wanted to turn back, it halted the turning. When I wanted to let go, it growled, "Come on, we gotta go." When my own had let go, this force did not go. My fear was so mad, but this force was too strong. My failure was so loud, but this force was too bold that it gave me a warm embrace when I felt too cold to even hold. And I was so lost, held and engulfed in a force so great that it kept my life together when it fell asunder. It took me from a pool of quitters and raised me to a class of achievers. It raised me from a level of just believers and prompted me to a level of creators. It told me I was a trendsetter, a pace setter, even when I thought I was just a noise maker. And because of this force, indescribable from within, you can call it faith, you can call it hope, you can call it love, or you can just simply cut it and call it Christ. Because of this force, now I know I'm not just an achiever like it seems. I'm not gonna stop at just the dreams. I'm not simply a prize contender, a winner. Excuse me. I'm more than a conqueror. I'm not even satisfied at just being a mere Christian.
One time at home, actually shortly before Dad had gone to South Africa, a door-to-door evangelist came and preached to us in our house. I was with my younger sister and our auntie. Mom my stepmom was not at home then. It was around the Easter season. So they had issues with dad, and so she wasn't staying with us anymore. So we were just home alone. My auntie had come to, keep us during the day when dad was at work. So the guy comes and preaches to us about Jesus Christ and what. I didn't really understand. But my auntie, she was younger. She was young, really. So she wasn't so old. Maybe the difference was about 5 years from us. So we could relate a bit. So she's like, okay, I'm born again. I'm like, what? What are you saying you're born again? What are you going to tell dad? Like, nothing. He doesn't have to know. Like, okay, true, okay. I'm also born again. So we all got born again just like that. We accepted Jesus. What Christianity does at this point in my life is to give me, the first thing is to give me solace. To point me to a place where I am loved unconditionally. But it's not clear. The picture is still vague. The picture of God and the love of God and Christ and all that is still vague. The little brightness it threw my way was the fact that there was love somewhere, at least. There was something as love on the horizon, so I could see it, I could feel it. And so oftentimes I would just find myself alone with God and writing to him letters, writing to him songs, and maybe reading books and reading the Bible. In my A-level at Chivuli SS, I inspired the beginning of a benevolent fund, benevolent, whatever that word is. So that fund was put up to support Meddy to stay in school. I saw students coming in to give me grab, like upkeep. I remember a friend of mine called Walter. He would bring a lot of grab and it would not fit in his box. Grab is like edibles in school. We used to call it grab. Things that keep you through boarding school. So it was too much that he would put some in my box and we would share keys. So anytime I needed something to eat, I would either open his box or what. Then I had people collecting stuff. Girls would collect things and bring and give to me. Then parents on visitation days, like students would tell their parents, we have a friend of ours, he's really hustling with school fees. So they would put money, they would put a table for Meddy to make sure that Meddy keeps in school. And a big chunk of my debt in A-level was paid by that fund. I sat my UNEB examinations without having paid, I think, for the entire senior six, but students had paid some money, and later on, during vacation, my dad managed to send some money and we cleared the debt. For me, now God's grace was coming into the picture. God was trying to show me who he was in such miraculous expressions, in such things. So, Christianity comes to try and neutralize some of that pain, some of that, those things that were just waving and hailing against me. End of third term, A-level, senior 5, we were supposed to do examinations that were to promote us to senior 6. In our time, there was something they called Kavazi. Kavazi was like the cutoff point. Such first class schools like Chivuli, maybe Budo, Gayaza, what they have, like everyone wants to register from such schools, so they have a cutoff mark. If you don't hit it in your senior 5, they don't put you on their registration list for UNEB. You don't come back for senior 6. So I wanted to pass, and for sciences our cutoff was, I think, 12 marks, 12 points. So I struggled with school fees. So third term I came so late for school, about I think a month or 3 weeks to exams. and I didn't have room to study for all the subjects. So I concentrated on the subjects that I was good at so that I can pass Kabazi and go to the next class and be given a position for the next class in the same school. So I concentrated on biology, agriculture, general paper, and chemistry, and I totally put away mathematics. I hated it anyway. So in the examination, in the mathematics exam, because I had to sit the exam, I was black and blue. I didn't know anything. I looked at the paper. Mathematics, A-level mathematics, you don't gamble. I don't even know how I passed, how I even got the combination that had mathematics, because I've always struggled with mathematics anyway. So I sat in the paper and looked through the entire paper, and I had not studied. There's nothing I could do in the paper. I felt so bad. I felt so useless. I felt so worthless. What I did, I put away the paper, I got at the answer sheet and started to write a song. I wrote music. So I did not register, I did not put my name on the paper, but I registered on the examination attendance list. So when the director of studies was passing through, he realized there was a Kizito Mohammed who was on the attendance list, but there was no question paper and answer sheet for Kizito Mohammed. But then there was a paper that was handed in without a name. So he put 2 and 2 together. He got the paper, tried to compare my handwriting with the rest of the handwritings in the different examinations that I had done, and they were matching, and so I realized it was me. So come the next year, first term, senior 6, there was such a thing as academic meeting. And for senior 6, they would collect all the students into one class. So the director of studies brought my song and read it in front of the entire class. And he said there is this fool who just, instead of answering questions, decided to write music in the mathematics exam. And he refused to put a name on his paper, thinking that we would not get him. So he writes, the letter was really, it was just, the song was me expressing my love to Jesus Christ. And everyone was just laughing. I felt small. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. Another blow unto my self-esteem. It's one of the most traumatizing moments in my high school was the time when these Muslim sheikhs would come and bang on my bed with metallic bars, banging on a metallic bed. And they would be shouting, swala, 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 swala. And the guy would just intentionally come just above your ear and bang that metal. Day in, day out. I hated it. I hated it, and consequently, I hated the entire religion that came with it. Christianity gave me room. It gave me room by creating a pot of music for me, so I would go and sing. Like a smoker or a drug addict would go and smoke or drink and maybe forget their problems. So for me, I would go and sing. I would go and have fun in church. And now here I am in a Muslim school, and I'm being hunted down for the very thing that keeps me alive, that keeps me sober, that keeps me going. And I'm like, what do I do? It was bad. I had the opportunity to become the head prefect of my school, and I just couldn't stand. Everybody wanted me to stand. The students wanted me. I failed to stand. I couldn't speak, I couldn't express myself. In as much as I was a very good debater and all that, but that fear just came on me, and like I just can't be a leader, can't lead. Who are you? Who do you think you are? You don't have even an opinion. You can't even convince anybody. Who have you ever convinced? Has your opinion ever mattered, you know? So I couldn't do that. Why? Because of my past, because of what had happened to me. Now the depression just keeps on, has just kept on coming back and taking different shapes and turns, but it's something that I've really had to struggle with: anxiety, self-esteem. It's now that I know that I would be able to really describe certain things and understand. So this is this, this is that. But then I would just fear. I would just not express myself to anybody. Midway my university, in my second year at campus, my father came back from the last time he came when we were in senior, when I was in senior 3, senior 4. The next time he comes back is at campus, second year, and he was very happy, his firstborn at campus and all that. So there are very many things. He brought me laptop, camera, clothes, and everything. Those things that you would do for your son when you're really happy and proud of them. And so at that point, I was already a minister in church, and I recorded a couple of videos of me doing praise and worship. And while he was going through some pictures, he had asked me to take pictures of my sisters and all that. He wanted to use them for certain things. So he checked and found a video of me leading praise and worship in church. And all the time since senior 1, I would tell him, "Wa alaikum salam." He would ask, "Salam alaikum," "Wa alaikum salam." That was our tagline. That was our conversation opener. And so this struck him by surprise. Like, excuse me? So I had worn a mask in his face for long. Thank God he wasn't there. But even when he was there, I would wear a mask for so long that he did not know that I was a Christian for I don't know how many years. Count from senior 1, 6 years, and then university, close to 2 extra years. That's 8 years, and he doesn't know. And I'm trying to tell him I've been a Christian for all this while, and he's not believing. He thinks I've been lying. I'm a liar. So at that point, he told me, "Get out of here before I kill you." We were in a hardware shop. Only I can strike you with this style, so just go away. I remember walking from Nakasero to Makerere University. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what had just happened. From a few moments before, we had just bought land, and I was a signatory to the land. And I'm his most wonderful son, responsible son, amazing son, disciplined son that does things right, as I'd been brought up to do things right. And this particular time he finds out that one of the things I had done them wrong. I wasn't believing his God, and he disowns me. And again, I am not allowed to express myself. And this time around, it was my faith. And the thing about faith is that at this point in time, more than 7 years, it had grown deep inside me. I knew beyond a shadow of doubt that I was a Christian. In fact, at some point, I was looking forward to this moment, but I feared. I didn't want it to happen during my university time. I wanted to first graduate, because I knew that if he knows at the time when I'm graduating, my education is going to stop there. And rightly so. That's why it all stopped just at the show. So at this time, I thought maybe this is the time when I tried to see if I can maybe find love from girls. And I tried a couple of them. But remember, I was also a minister in church. So yeah, I found myself in relationships, and sexually active relationships. And of course, on Sunday, you go and put up a show, you minister. I was an interpreter, moreover. Nobody would know. I had mastered the art of faking appearances. So you would never know really. But it would cut me so deep. I would feel so empty. But the more empty I felt, the more I felt the urge to either go and have more girls or watch porn and all those things, just to try and it's like those were like my run to places now. Music wasn't, it was no longer helping. Even when I listened to music, it wasn't the kind of music that would build me up. It was a different kind of music. But in me, there was still that still small voice that said, I love you anyway. And I would just, brush it off and excuse me, but I wanted something to fill up that space, because I always thought I'd never imagined my life without my father. So that left me so empty. And
poetry blows up in my spirit like pain in the cracks of a broken heart. I'm bleeding, but nobody sees it because they think that my lines are beautiful, that my wings are adorable. They don't understand. They don't understand that these are blood stains, clots of my blood on the paper. I'm trying to cry out for help here, but then I don't want anybody to hear me, so I slice my vein, paint my heart on a piece of paper, stick it out on Twitter, and hope that somebody will read this picture, question my matter, and arise to my danger. But damn it, nobody cares. Nobody gives a damn about what you feel or how you feel. They don't even know anyway. I'll tell you something. If you're still looking for friends, parents, pastors, partners to solve your loneliness issues, then you, my friend, are in for a very big disappointment. Solitude defines everything. Divine, you are divine. Get to a place where you long for God more than an addicted drunkard to his bottle. When pleasure supersedes pain, that's when a man loses control over an addiction and starts to be controlled by the item of his adoration at the expense of all the risks involved. Get to a place where you long for pleasurable moments away, alone with God. Where your room ceases to be a place you go to when you just want to sleep, to a place you can't wait to get to, away from the clutter. Not just to sleep, but to lock yourself up and have fellowship, koinonia, intercourse with God. Says to jump onto every wagon of blood available, all in the name of company, and then come back feeling all lonely and empty all over again. Get off the roller coaster and decide to love you without permission or external inspiration. Take yourself out. Go do a new sport, learn a new instrument. Drop the pain and grab the mic. Your song is playing at the rhythm of your heartbeat. Sing it.
In 2015, actually, the auntie I was staying with was with a particular pastor that they were working with, and the church was at our home, at my aunt's home. And the church had been established earlier, 2012. So all the time we were working and we were ministering in that church. All the things I was doing them from that church. When university education stopped, I started to minister in that church, but with a lot of pain. That's why I would do all those things and nobody would know. And then on Sunday, I come and I minister. But 2015, I get to realize the pastor was also promiscuous. He was sleeping around with girls. He was a married man. He was conniving to steal my auntie's land, which he successfully did later on, which actually came to lead to the death of that auntie of mine, one of my greatest heroes of faith. Because, wow. But yeah, she passed on later on in 2017, I think. But in 2015, I left home, when I got to realize all those things, it was too much. I was already having too much depression. At one point, I had so much fear in me, even with the gospel being preached. I would feel so much fear in me that I would wake up with my heart racing like I'm losing breath. I just couldn't handle anymore. So I just packed a few of my things and left home and went to stay with a cousin. So I would spend nights at Miracle Center in overnights on Friday and just wail before God and just cry before God. And it was during that time that I was introduced to Glory World Church. And when I got to this church, I found love in a different perspective. The other love that was in shadows, the other voice that was dim and soft was now amplified. God became real. The Bible became practical. The Word of God became tangible, and things started to take shape. But I was still hurting. I was still depressed, with no place of my own to stay, with no job and all those things. Depression. Every now, my entire past would come sweeping in like a wave. It would come sweeping in like a flood, and I would try to hold this and that, and there was nothing to hold on except the grace of God, the word of God, the love of God. But that had been manifested and made real by the church community that I'd been introduced to. And so slowly by slowly, I started to pick up. Later on, I think in 2016, I fell in love with a girl at church, and I was so badly off. I don't know why. I don't want to think that's the reason she said no, but she said no anyway. And she was honest. And that devastated me so bad. I felt like, yeah, my life was useless. One more time, like it was another big reminder that it doesn't matter. Even this grace thing that you're talking about and the love, it's all useless. Isn't this a church girl who is saying no to you? So what are you? You're just a bunch of nothing. I locked myself up. I locked my world up and went solo, and decided to just lock the world out and hurt. I cried. I felt like I was running mad. At one point, I felt like all my brain cells were all being pulled, each in their own directions, and I was just left there alone. I was just on the brink of running mad. I wanted to die. I just want to work out, to sleep, and not wake up somehow. Everything was senseless, and I was weak. I was disinterested in everything. Around 2017, I landed on a program on radio on Bob FM called The Coach, and it was a program aired by Bahati Hilda and Tim Sabiti. And they were talking about these things. They're talking about life, relationships, mental health, business, like the human being 360. And they started to talk about these things from a professional perspective. I did not know what I was struggling with until I started to listen to professionals, until I started to listen to those people. Because like I said, even in church, those things, I was still struggling with them. And yes, much as I knew I was loved, I didn't have, I knew that my spiritual father loved me, my school, music school members, my fellow choir members. But I mean, the things were there, the challenges were there still, even amidst all that love and everything. I'd been given too much in life that I no longer wanted to ask for anything. I hated asking up to now. So it's because all the time, what I had was never enough. But when I started to listen to professionals, when I started to listen to those people, those two guys, and together with my church atmosphere and the things that I'd come to realize, because when I joined Boch, I was given a platform to now express myself without really having to impress. A place where I knew that they loved me irrespective of what shortcomings I had, who I was, how shabby or ragged I was, and everything. And that's when I started to discover a lot of me, the artist in me, the creative genius that I was, the poet in me. I wrote my first poem in 2015, and this one I wrote it after being inspired by a lady called Noisy. She's another poet, I think from Watoto. But I saw her do a poem on the Kampala City Festival in 2015, and I so loved what she did, and I was prompted to go and put down whatever I felt. So I started to write. I started to do the things that I really loved without really having to seek for validation. I mastered the poem and asked to perform it in front of my church, and it was so amazing. I received so much welcome. But the last nail in the coffin was when I attended a worship session. It was arranged by a fellowship known as Sozo on one of their Super Saturdays. And I went there, and I'd actually gone there to perform poetry. And when I reached the place, it was full of the Spirit of God. The music was so ministering. I just went deep. The song started to minister to me. I sang and found myself lying prostrate on the ground, and God ministered healing to me that day. Somehow there was a heaviness that was lifted off my chest, and life has never been the same again. Do I continue to face the same challenges? Yes. Do I still find issues? Yes. Up to now, I'm wondering. I'm actually bothered by parents who never find it okay to actually say sorry to their children when they are wrong. I think it's something that parents need to look at. You can be wrong, okay? Yes, I see the same things in society every other day, and I'm like, why would this continue like this? But those no longer trigger pain. They no longer they trigger action. I no longer react. I am always ahead. When such things happen, I always know what to do. I am no longer influenced by the triggers of my past. But I know when it happens, I know that this is something that is trying to, distract me. And so I know how to deal with it. I know how to handle it. And I can boldly say that someone can actually fight and win the struggle of mental health challenges. You can actually have a very good mental atmosphere. Mental challenges, especially on the male side, are viewed as a weakness. Like, so you tell somebody you're depressed, you're a guy, you're depressed, like, how does that even make sense? And you try to look at the person telling you that, and you trace back and you realize they also have mental health issues, but they don't know. So, I mean, the abnormal has so been there for a very long time that it has become normal. And so you can't know. People don't know when they're actually struggling. After knowing the things that I know now, I realized that I should have been given room to ask questions. I should have been given room to express myself. I should have been given room to make mistakes. And that would have changed very many things. I would be so far, because understanding who I really am right now, I realize after deciding to go out and dare to make mistakes, I have discovered so many things about myself. After being given the opportunity to express myself without the threat of you're going to lose this. Because when you're growing up with other people, you must keep in line or you're forfeiting your place in that home. Here, things are done like this. When you're in your father's house, when you're in your mother's house, things are a little bit different. You know you'll make a mistake and they will beat you, but you know that you will be your mother's child. You will be your father's child. So there is room to express yourself. There is room to live not in the fear of what might go wrong, but in the assurance of what could happen, what good will happen, in the confidence of who you really are in the eyes of the people that you're staying with, your parents. So the denial that I got for me to express myself to the people that I was staying with it kept on amplifying itself. It kept on magnifying, getting magnified and bulging to a place of low self-esteem, to a place of fear, anxiety. What's going to happen? Oh my God, So I imagine if you stay with someone and you're sure of their love, that you would not be scared to tell them that you've made a mistake. Think about it as a child who breaks a cup at home and they hide. They hide the cup and they hide themselves. Maybe it has even cut them, they hide. As opposed to a child who breaks the cup and runs to the dad or the mom and tells them, "Mommy, I am so sorry, I've broken the cup." And the mom is like, "Oh, sorry, are you hurt?" It's different. Those two children will grow up in different atmospheres and they will have different perspectives about life and expressions. And I'm afraid the former was my kind of life. You had to hide once you've made a mistake. You are not supposed to make a mistake. You're not supposed to have bad influence. You're not supposed to have that ability to express the real you. You're supposed to do things right. You want to succeed. You're supposed to do sciences. You want to do, you were supposed to do this. I remember when my dad was taking me to the village, he told me, "I don't want you to be a spoiled city kid, so I'm going to take you to the village." And so for me, the village was to be right, to be put right. And so much in me was lost. A lot of me was lost in that phase of my life. So it's later, after understanding these things, that I'm trying now to go back and pick up a few pieces here and there to try and make the Meddy Progress that God created me to be. If anybody's out there and they have these same challenges, the first thing that I would advise is, if it's depression, if it's anxiety, if it's self-doubt and all that kind of fear and all those things, you have to first of all understand what the problem is, and stop trying to fidget around and figure out things. You need to diagnose the problem, and that can help. That can be possible. You can do it on your own, or you can do it with help from other people. For me, it was hearing from professionals, but I cannot say that it's strictly that from professionals that you'll get help. Sometimes it's with people around us, family. They tell you, "Hey, I think you have a drug problem. I think you have an alcohol problem. I think you have self-esteem issue." So you don't run so fast to defense. Sit back and think, let that sink in a little bit, ponder about it and try to trace it back. Why did they say that? And if you realize there is a problem there, then start on a journey. So the next thing is to you must come to the end of that pain. You must come to the end. You must come to a place where you are fed up. If you still think you can live on a little longer, you will still struggle with it. So a person must come to the place where they are tired of being in fear. A person must come to a place when they are tired tired of being addicted. They must come to a place where they are tired and they want help. So as long as that person is being pulled to get help, they will always relapse. They will always go back into that pain. They will always go back into that fear. They will always go back into cutting themselves and everything, into the porn, into the prostitution, into the one, everything else. Why? Because they still can use a little more of that. But before you become tired, you must know that there is a problem. If you don't know that there is a problem, then you are like a blind man walking in the street. Sooner or later, you're gonna be hit by a car. I had to come to a place where I realize, yes, I have not, and I will never have a perfect childhood, because I can never go back to being a child again. I can never have a home with my parents and my mom and dad together. That's a luxury I will never be able to afford. It's done. That chapter is closed. I must be able to face that reality head on and understand that that's done. But it doesn't have to be the fate for my children. So I can actually give my children a childhood that I never had. But then I must be willing to actually break the ties, break the chain, because the things that my father and mother did can so easily pass on to me and to my children if I don't break the chain. And the chain is broken by actually you willing to start on a healing journey.
Kristo wababulirwa nga yazukira mu bafu wakyatempulira abamukumwe yabagamba nteri kuzukira kw'abafu. Awo olwatuuka ng'omwana w'embuga azaliddwa mu bwangu ayigiddwa n'atwalibwa ebbali akwekeddwa. Akaseera mpawe kaaganga babadde bayigga bazikiddwa. Tuba tuli awo Yosefu ono ne Mariya ne Yesu ngaziddwa. Naye nno terunnagwa amangu n'embira abatiziddwa. Awo enjiri ebuuliddwa naye omulangira agaaniddwa. Amalusu afuggiddwa abantu bennyini abaggiddwa. Emiggo yafuna jambwa anti lengera akomereddwa. Omulungi aziikiddwa ameze n'amala ate n'alumaha. Omulaba awanguddwa Yesu wenjogerera.